welcome to episode 5 of the Red Line podcast with Jared and Blake. This period, we are going to be talking about soccer, particularly, or football for our foreign viewers. Very cultured. We're going to touch base on the Premier League, as that is back and up, which we are super excited about. And the Bundesliga, which was the first major sports league in the world to resume their league since the COVID lockdown. And they have just recently actually finished their season. So they are the first to resume and finish successfully, which will be interesting to talk about.
Yeah, they've got a smaller league than the Premier League. There's two less teams, so their league's a little shorter. Their season's a little shorter, I should say. So that's probably why the fact that they started earlier and their team leagues, there's less teams. That's why they're finished so soon. So
yeah, it's interesting. They did seem to have pretty strong protocol in place from the get-go to be able to quarantine teams in their own hubs in order to kind of contain contact with the public and kind of abstain from that. But the funny thing is and they're battling this with the NHL and the MLB as well in North America, is having teams go to hotels instead to try and centralize where the teams are located once they're traveling to their hub city, or whether they're on the road or whatever. What they did in Bundesliga as well as the Premier League is actually the players have been able to stay in their own houses.
Right.
On game days, the night before, they would stay in hotels. But yeah, they've been actually able to stay in their homes. And the Premier League has had such a low rate of COVID cases. They're below 1%, and they've tested over 11,000 times in the Premier League. So it's pretty crazy, the success rate that they've had with containing the virus, which is incredible. So yeah, we're going to talk about and dive a little bit deeper into the Premier League here. It's a bit interesting watching on DAZN here in Canada. They have the rights to the Premier League, and NBC Sports in the States does. And they've provided optional listening options to either include fans, like obviously no fans in the stands, but fans, like the noise of fans, and piping that in to the audio, versus listening to a completely silent stadium.
And it's different between the Bundesliga and the Premier League, right? Because the Premier League, they play. The players don't hear any crowd.
Right.
But in the Bundesliga, they piped it into the stadium, right?
Yeah. So it's interesting because, with the stadium, like with the Bundesliga, they're pumping it into the stadium and they're pumping the feed through the TV. So you're not hearing it through the stadium audio. You're still hearing it like you would in the Premier League.
Right.
But for players in the Bundesliga, I would imagine it would be weird, but when you get in the zone of playing, it's just kind of background noise almost, where it probably would help. I think
it would. I think it'd be so weird playing in an empty stadium if you were so used to like crowds cheering.
Yeah, I mean, for me playing, it's like I never play in front of anybody anyway. So it's like I hear kids playing at the playground, and that's about the most noise I hear all game. So I can imagine that'd be kind of weird. I was watching the Liverpool versus Everton game, which was a complete snore fest, as you remember.
Yes, we watched that together, yeah.
And it was funny listening to the announcers talk about it, because one of the commentators had the fan noise pumped into his headphones, and the other one didn't. Yeah. And if I was a commentator, I think that would be sort of weird doing it without the noise, because all you would hear is just you talking in silence. And I feel like that background noise would be a similar sensation to what the players experience with playing in front of fans. It's just kind of that background noise buzz that you hear that kind of just has a sense of normalcy.
And I was watching a bit of the Man United game today against Brighton. And one of the guys, when he scored, went and did a slide on his knees, But there was no crowd to cheer him on, so he must have felt so weird. Like he's just celebrating, but
cheering
there's
in front of no one.
Yeah, but obviously the noise was piped through for me to hear. But for him, that must have been so weird. Like he's celebrating, but just crickets, in the stadium. So
they've gotten pretty high tech too with the crowd noise. They were saying that it's legitimate sound noise from that stadium, from that team.
It's not just generic.
It's not just generic, at least in the Premier League. They were saying that. And so I was trying to listen for some of the chants, and sure enough, like, yeah, you can tell.
Yeah. Okay.
I was watching a Manchester City game, and they were doing like the City chant and singing Blue Moon at the start of the game or whatever. So it's kind of interesting to see that, the level of detail. And even when somebody scores, the sound guy or whoever's managing the crowd,
sound guy's killing it.
Yeah,
he's got so many good sounds.
He's on it.
Like there was one where the guy like shot into the side of the net, and if you were sitting at the other side of the stadium, you thought it went in, right? So the crowd noise goes up. It's like excitement, but then like disappointment. Like, one of those. It was so good. Like, man, they've got sounds for everything.
Who would have thought? Hey, like they just created a new job. Piped in sound noise, fan noise guy.
It's like the DJ of the game,
Yeah, the DJ. Yeah, he's like, yeah, before COVID I was doing clubs and stuff. And now I'm the sound guy for the Premier League.
I just wonder what their soundboards, like the labels for the sounds, like disappointed sound or like cheering sound, or like what do they name them to know? To
Ball almost goes in, disappointed away fan sound.
But they're quick on it too. It's not like there's like much of a delay. Yeah. Like they know where those sounds are. So it's really funny.
Another funny thing that I've noticed is along and around the field, they've been setting up cones with the balls on them because they don't have ball boys anymore.
Yeah.
So it's also kind of funny because they're allowed up to 300 non-playing personnel in the stadiums. So some of the staff of the home team are kind of social distanced around the stadium, and they're like wearing masks and gloves. Then they're almost acting as makeshift ball boys. So you just see like these fat assistants just running up the steps trying to get the ball. And oh man, it's so funny. But it's weird. It's a different game that we're watching almost in terms of the off-field stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
I was watching a game and I was watching the Liverpool game, the Fabinho goal. I had it on mute though. And the goal went in and it was like crazy goal, but I didn't hear anyone reacting. And I feel like it lessened the quality of the goal because you couldn't hear the reaction, right? And I feel like it'd be the same for the players because like there's no one like screaming because the goal was insane, right?
Yeah, Jamie Carragher was talking about that on Sky Sports. He's like, it's too bad that the cop wasn't in person behind the goal because the place would have just absolutely erupted after that 30-yarder just goes in.
Yeah, nuts.
And yeah, he made a good point. It is kind of too bad, even like from the player's standpoint. Like, oh man, I just scored a 30-yard screamer in front of the cop, except it was empty.
Against like, was that the Everton game? No,
that was against Crystal Palace. Yeah. And
so less exciting, but still,
that was the last game before they won the league.
Probably the last goal then for Liverpool.
Yeah, I think so. So that's we'll get into that here in a second, but yeah, it is kind of too bad for some of these unreal goals, and Fabinho doesn't score that often. So.
No. And the last time he scored, I think, was like an identical goal to that.
Yeah, except I think it was at the other end against Manchester City. So it's kind of like his first goal in front of the cop, so to speak, and it's empty. That's just too bad. But anyways, back to the important stuff here. Liverpool are champions. Blake, what's your reaction?
Well, as soon as the whistle blew, I called you.
Yeah, you sure did.
And I played You'll Never Walk Alone over the phone.
That was great.
Sang along a little bit, and then hung up.
So. I'm never gonna forget that. I don't think.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. Just you playing "You'll Never Walk Alone" through the phone. Didn't say a thing on the phone. You just let it play, and then once the song was over, click, turned it off, and I was like, oh,
"Did you know at that point that they'd won?"
I did. Yeah, okay. I had it. I wasn't watching it, but I just kind of had the ticker going on my computer, and when I saw that Fernandinho got that red card for the handball on the goal line, I was like, oh boy. And I didn't realize, I just saw the red card. I didn't realize that there was a penalty coming.
Yeah.
And then I saw that Willian scored a penalty. I was like, beautiful. Game over.
Yeah.
83rd minute. They're not coming back from this. Like, if you're
they had to win. They couldn't tie.
Yeah.
They had to win.
They had to win.
Yeah.
And so, if you're that Man City team, you're like, no chance. We're scoring 2 goals in the last 7 minutes plus stoppage time to beat Chelsea, like with a man down. Yeah.
Not gonna happen. Yeah.
Not happening. So just at that point, it was honestly just kind of like surreal. I wasn't really expecting them to win the league
Yeah,
that
me neither.
night.
Yeah.
And then they ended up winning the league, and it's kind of weird. Like, it feels like that was so long ago, but that was only not even a week ago. It was like 5 days ago that Chelsea game was, because the Liverpool game was on the Wednesday, and then Thursday was the Chelsea Man City game.
Is that on Thursday?
Yeah, it was on Thursday, and Liverpool haven't played since that game. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Klopp does in the remaining games,
especially
now
this
that
game
they've
too,
won.
because they're playing City now. So it's like,
That's right. Yeah,
this is probably still their toughest competition. But like, do they go for breaking records, or do they get young players more experience? Like, what's the strategy here? I'm interested to see that too. Yeah.
And you know what? The same thing kind of goes for Man City too. Like, it was kind of a 2-horse race at the end. Right. So Man City are like, well, we can't win the league now.
There's nothing for them to prove. Like,
yeah,
they've got champions.
They've got Champions League. They've got FA Cup still. They made it through to the FA Cup, so they still have those two sort of competitions to compete for. So you know what? They might play kind of a lesser.
They might.
Lesser team against us. Liverpool will probably play guys that are kind of on the rotation, like the Naby Keitas and the Takumi Minaminos. Those kind of guys. But in the same token, Man City's going to give Liverpool a guard of honor. So maybe they want to play their full strength for the guard of honor. I don't know.
Right.
But every player, whether he's on the bench or whether he's playing in the starting 11, gets to walk through that. So that's kind of a side point. But yeah, I'm so stoked that Liverpool won the league. I've been waiting my entire life. It's never happened. When Liverpool won the Champions League before last year in 2005, I wasn't really supporting Liverpool at that point.
I wasn't even watching soccer. I wasn't super into it. And then 3 years later, 2008 is when I kind of got into it. So they've never been really good. Good enough to win the league, except for 2013 when they came super close. Lost by a point.
That
was last season. They lost by a point.
So there's been a few close calls, but it's always been heartbreak, and now we finally won it, and Klopp is he's completely changed the club.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what he said, right? Like, they want to change the atmosphere from doubters to believers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Believe it now.
Yeah. And when you win, well, it's kind of crazy. Like, Liverpool are the champions of Europe. They're the defending Champions League winners. They're the champions of the world.
Yep.
They have won the Club World Cup and beat all the other winners. They're also the UEFA Super Cup winners, so that really makes them the champions of Europe because they beat Chelsea, who won the Europa League. And they also won the Premier League, so the champions of England now. So they're literally the best team on the planet. Best club team on the planet right now.
Yeah.
Which is incredible to think about, because they've won it all. They've won domestically, they've won continentally, and now they've won internationally with the Club World Cup.
It's too bad it's not all in the same season. But like, it's consecutive, so it's they're just crushing it. So.
And like with COVID kind of canceling some of the stuff, it's like, well, they haven't finished Champions League yet, so technically we're still the reigning champions of Europe.
Exactly. Yeah. No, we're kicked out or knocked out of it.
Yeah. So I'm super excited. I know with winning the Premier League, a lot of money comes in for that. Like, you win millions and millions and millions of dollars. However, Liverpool have lost a lot of money due to COVID.
True.
And
so is every other team.
So is every other team, right? Yeah. So it'll be interesting because now, obviously, the owners of Liverpool are Americans, and they're the owners of the Boston Red Sox.
Yep.
And MLB baseball might not happen, and there's all this turmoil going on with the owners, and they're losing millions and billions of dollars on it. So it'll be interesting because their pocketbooks are tied to that as well. So
they'll use this winning to fund their MLB.
That's what I'm kind of worried about, is that some of the gains in Liverpool might offset the Boston Red Sox, but who knows? They've been really good at buying players that are good for cheap. Like, look at Andy Robertson, for example.
Steal.
Like, $8 million they paid for him, and he's now worth $100 million.
Crazy,
I think he's still the best left back in the world for sure. Like, he's just so good.
He is very good.
Like, even against Everton when he wasn't playing and James Milner was playing, when he came in against Palace, it was a completely different team.
Yeah.
Like you had two outside footers, you had Trent on the right who could swing it in, you had Robertson on the left who could swing it in, and it was just attack after attack after attack. And they just completely demolished Crystal Palace. There was a stat that was the craziest stat I've ever seen, is the other team, Crystal Palace, didn't have a touch in the opposition box in the entire game.
Wow.
Entire game. Like
wow.
that's the first time that stat has ever been recorded in the Premier League.
Like ever.
Ever.
Wow.
Like how do you go an entire game? Like they had touches in our half, but all the shots came from outside the box. They didn't enter our box at all the entire game. Like Alisson could have pulled out a lawn chair, put his sunglasses on, and had a nap for 90 minutes, and they wouldn't have scored on us.
Crazy.
Yeah, anyways. It's crazy to think that they're champions. It also means for Champions League next year, they finally, for the first time ever, get to be put in pot 1 of the Champions League.
Right.
Which means they have a favorable draw against...
Winning the Champions League doesn't put you in pot 1?
No, winning the Champions League puts you in pot 2.
2, is it? Oh, okay.
Which is kind of weird. So last year we were put in pot 2, and we had a pretty good draw, but I think we got drawn with PSG, did we not?
Man, it feels like so long ago.
I think PSG... Who was in our group this year?
Because Atletico was the one that knocked us out.
Yeah, because I think it was PSG, because didn't Firmino do that like one eye patch thing that was crazy?
Was that this year?
I'm so mixed up by my years.
Yeah.
It's crazy how the years just blend in with each other. Because obviously Napoli was in our group once again, and Napoli are like, they're so good. And they beat us. But yeah, we had Red Bull Salzburg, which was a pretty favorable draw, and we also had Genk, which was a favorable draw. So Napoli was kind of the big wild card, but now we're the big kahunas here. Like we get to be the PSGs, the Real Madrids that win their leagues over and over and over and over again and get to be put in pot 1 so that we don't have to play them. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Like if you look at this Bayern Munich, they still had a decently tough group. Like Tottenham still got drawn with Bayern Munich. So we still could get like a tough team in our group. But look at Man City. Like Man City's group this year was them, Atalanta, which ended up being a really good team. Like they might win the Serie, or they are like really up high in the Serie A. And then Shakhtar Donetsk from Ukraine and Dynamo Zagreb from Croatia, I think. So
Shakhtar Donetsk from Ukraine?
I think so, yeah.
I thought they're from Turkey.
Yeah, pretty sure they're Ukraine. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, it's crazy. So it'll be great to see who we get drawn with. We won't get drawn with Bayern Munich, which is good. They won their league, so won't be them. And Juventus, sounds like they're going to win Serie A, so won't get drawn against Juventus, which is nice. And yeah, whoever wins PSG probably won the French league. They win the French league pretty much every year, except a couple years ago when Monaco was unreal and they had like Mbappe and Falcao
and they sold everybody.
Thomas Lemar. Yeah, that team was crazy.
Yeah. So,
on that topic of Bayern winning the league, they've won 8 consecutive Bundesliga titles.
Yeah, they're a good team, but like, it's a little biased. You think? Like it's really. Is the competition really that fierce? Is it really that balanced?
Yeah.
In the Bundesliga?
Well, that's the thing. Like, with the Bundesliga, you think, like, it's not as bad in terms of the gulf in the quality of the teams as the French league. Like, PSG are miles better than any of the other teams. Like, Lyon's okay. Marseille's okay. But besides them, Lille is okay.
Yeah.
But there's nobody even close to PSG in the French league, and they just walk over everybody. And the Bundesliga is
better. It's
better than the French league, but there's like
3 teams.
Yeah, there's Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, and Red Bull Leipzig.
Pretty much, yeah.
pretty much running the show.
Sometimes you might hear Hoffenheim thrown in there, maybe.
Yeah.
If you ask anybody that's just doesn't really watch soccer, they know Bayern, maybe no one else. But they can list off 4 Premier League teams. It's probably because it's more popular, but also it's just so one-sided. So
yeah, it's so true. And the thing with the Bundesliga too, it's some of these teams were good once upon a time, but then their superstar will get sold. Like Wolfsburg, for example. They've actually had some decent players. That's where Kevin De Bruyne played there. And that was where he kind of got his stardom, was when he was playing at Wolfsburg. Hertha Berlin, they're kind of always mid-table. Mönchengladbach, they've had good players, but then they sell them. Thorgan Hazard, Mahmoud Dahoud was there too. He was good, but they got 4th this year.
Great name.
I know, it's a great name. Same with Bayer Leverkusen. They came 5th, but they have Jonathan Tah on defense. He's really good. He'll probably leave though. Kai Havertz is their superstar. Guy's unreal. But they loaned him to Bayern Munich. It doesn't even make sense sometimes why these teams do it. I mean, the player wants to play for the best team. He's a superstar. He's gonna leave Leverkusen this year if they don't win Champions League or make Champions League for sure, which it doesn't look like they did. But
and they're in 5th, yeah.
Yeah, they're in 5th. So yeah, sometimes it just doesn't make sense. If it's a loan to buy, okay, maybe, but I don't think it is. So yeah, some of these teams, you look at the table, and yeah, there's 3 teams. Even Red Bull Leipzig, they've only really came to prominence in the last 10 years when they got bought and then just pumped a bunch of money in, and
it's like City.
yeah. They honestly are. Built a brand new, beautiful stadium, that sort of thing. So,
yeah.
It's always kind of been Bayern and Dortmund.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And
some other teams pop in and out. But
some other teams pop in and out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of...
It's kind of like that vicious circle, too, because all the good players... There's only one good team. All the good players want to play for that one good team. So there's no competition. So,
yeah.
I don't know how you fix that.
Yeah, you don't.
You need someone who's really good but really loyal.
Mm-hmm. And Bayern has had some of those guys too, like Miroslav Klose, their striker that they had forever, and just won scoring title after scoring title for them.
World Cup leading scorer all time.
Yeah, he was a beast for them, and he won them tons of titles. And Robert Lewandowski for them, same thing. The guy's an absolute animal. He scores 50 plus goals every single year in all competitions.
Yeah, he's got 34 this season.
Yeah, 34 just in the
Bundesliga.
In the Bundesliga. Yeah. Not including Champions League or the DFB Pokal.
He's our top scorer for the past 3 seasons.
He's crazy good. But one thing about Bayern Munich that I really like is the emergence of Alphonso Davies. He is...
I've yet to see him play, but...
He's crazy good.
Yeah.
And he's only 20 years old. He's 20 years old, and he's Canadian. He was actually born in Africa. I can't remember which country in Africa, but he basically came over to Canada as a refugee. And yeah, just scary good. So strong, super pacey. And when he played for the Whitecaps, he kind of just played everywhere. Anywhere along the left side he played. But Bayern Munich has kind of made him into a left back permanently, and he's just made it his own.
Right.
And people are saying he's the best left back in the world now.
That's contending with your Robertson comment from earlier.
I don't agree with that.
Okay.
Because defensively, he's not nearly as good as Robertson. Going forward, he's better than Robertson. Okay. But he is a left back, and left backs are meant to defend.
Yeah.
And he's got more points and goals. Actually, he doesn't have more points than Robertson. Robertson has more assists than he does. But still, he's 20 years old and just an absolute beast. And there was this video of Erling Haaland on
that guy.
Dortmund, and clear on goal by 20 yards. And you just see Alphonso Davies fly after him and take the ball off of him. He was 20 yards behind him, and he caught up to him and took the ball off of him.
Whoa.
And it's just And Haaland's not a slouch. Like, he's actually pretty quick. He's young. And, it's crazy. So, it's cool to see. He could be the most famous Canadian athlete right now, just with how big soccer is around the world.
Yeah,
he might be the most well-known Canadian athlete just because he's the starting left back for Bayern Munich.
Yeah,
and a stud. People are like, this kid is the best player 20 years or younger in the world right now, and he's Canadian. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens with his career. I hope he leaves the Bundesliga and goes to the Premier League because I think he'll be a better player in the future if he does that, just because the competition is better and he'll get more spotlight than in the Bundesliga. In the Bundesliga, you can play for a wicked team like Bayern and get great exposure through that and the Champions League, but you can get all that and more in the Premier League, and he's English speaking, so I think it'll help him.
Easier for him,
help him a little bit better play. I could see him playing for one of the big six in the Premier League. I could see him actually going to a club like Arsenal, if I'm honest, a club that is quote unquote one of the big six. I know it doesn't seem that way right now, but
10th, I think.
Yeah, but they could use somebody like him,
right?
That's very attack focused, solid left back. Kolasinac has been playing there for them, I think, and he's Hector Bellerin plays on the other side, and he's pretty good.
He is good. I like him.
But yeah, someone like him, he's not going to get into the Chelsea team. I don't think.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I think
they got Azpilicueta there right now.
Well, I think Azpilicueta plays on the other side. They got Alonso.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And he's off and on. He's kind of similar. He's not great at defending, but
he's all attack. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe Chelsea, but Chelsea's throwing the wad at everyone, and Chelsea's kind of raiding the Bundesliga right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they bought Timo Werner.
Oh, they got him.
They got him.
Oh wow.
And they're talking about getting Kai Havertz, which is that guy I was just referencing from Leverkusen, but he's on loan at Bayern Munich.
Right.
So Roman Abramovich is just throwing the checkbook at the Bundesliga. And you know what? Alphonso Davies he shouldn't, I don't think, for a couple years, but he might. It's crazy. But I'm excited to see where he goes just because he's Canadian.
Yeah. Do you think Erling Haaland, whatever you pronounce his name, think he'll stay in Dortmund?
I think he'll stay there for a while. He's super young as well. And Dortmund are a really good team.
Yeah, they are.
And Bundesliga, the thing with Haaland is that this exposure is so fresh to him because he was an absolute unknown until this year.
Yep.
When he just lit up the Champions League for Salzburg and was leading the group stage in goals for them. And they didn't even go through, but he was leading them and leading the competition in goals, and then he got bought by Dortmund. The thing with Alphonso Davies is he was hyped in Canada. He was the best player in the MLS at 19 years old, and then he got bought by Munich. So Alphonso's kind of used to the spotlight a little bit more than Haaland is. So I think Haaland will stay at Dortmund for a couple years, and then he might hit 23 or 24 and go somewhere, pending that he still scores goals at the rate he is.
Yeah.
He might go somewhere like a PSG or something, depending what Mbappe does. Because Mbappe might leave PSG, which I think he should, because PSG is a joke.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
The whole league is.
That whole league, it's oh, wow. Oh, yeah, you scored 36 goals in the Liga in France. It's dude, that's playing in the championship in England every week.
Right, yeah.
Or even worse.
But the thing is, it's you're not just a decent Premier League team playing the championship.
Yeah.
It's you're a good team.
Yeah, you are a good team.
Very
you are
good team.
One of the
Best
you'd be a
Europe,
top 6 in England playing against the championship every single week.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you're gonna win 6-0 or 4-0 or whatever every week. So well, good chat. That was a good talking about soccer. It's good to have soccer back, and I'm
really
happy to hear it.
Yeah.
So in the coming periods, we're going to talk about the NHL draft and the upcoming NHL play-in round at the end of this month, hopefully pending all health protocols are taken care of. So we'll talk about that. And then in our last period, we're going to talk about the favorite topic of the day. Very, very nonsense, but we like it. We're going to rank our top 10 cereals. Can't wait.
All right, stay tuned, everyone.
Stay tuned.